All right. Welcome back to the Andre Duke Show. I was going to have Carter on tonight, but some things came up with him and couldn't make it. But the show goes on. So, um, first off, with the rundown we got tonight is Tony Alford leaves Ohio State to go to Michigan. I've seen it out there where some of the players were not thrilled. Um, some the fans were outraged. He went to the one school that he shouldn't have went to, but I kind of look at it at both angles. He made a business decision, and he also made a decision to maybe stiff it to some people. He may or may not have felt disrespected with a 1 year deal. So I do know at Ohio State inside the Woody, it is a must win. So Tony Alford leaves, goes to Michigan. We'll see if the hammer gets dropped on them. Um, Possible replacements. They had out there that possibly DeMarco Murray was coming, and he is not. So I think we'll have to wait and see what Ryan Day does on that front. It's kind of a crapshoot right now for whoever's going to be the running backs coach, I believe. Moving on. Uh, Justin Fields is a Steeler, which is huge. The Steelers signed Russell Wilson a couple days before that, traded Kenny Pickett. Pickett wanted to take his ball and go home. So um, that's what it is. He is still going to be a backup, except he's doing it in Philly. So Pickett, good riddance. See you later. Shameless plug. Permanente Brothers, a couple weeks ago, a sandwich shop in Pittsburgh had a jersey buyback to where if you brought a Pickett jersey down to the restaurant, they would give you a $25 gift certificate. So that's how they feel about Kenny in Pittsburgh. Moving on. Are the Chicago Bears the dumbest franchise in the NFL? They literally gave Justin Fields away for nothing for a 6th-round draft pick. That is wild to me. And the Commanders got more out of Sam Howell than they did out of Justin Fields. The Steelers, I believe, are going to start Russ for the first couple of games. If the guy takes a dump on the field, I don't foresee Russ lasting long in Pittsburgh. I think Justin Fields will be the starter there. The Steelers are a better organization, ran better. The Bears have quote unquote crapped the bed on this one. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where the Bears end up. I think it's inevitable now. They're going to take Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. Me personally, I am not sold. I think the guy's going to have a bunch of locker room issues. The people around him, his quote unquote camp, is going to do nothing but cause problems in Chicago because they're poorly ran to begin with. I just don't see that being a good fit. The guy, the fuck Utah painted on the fingernails and wearing a dress. I just don't think that is going to fit in the Chicago Bears locker room as a whole, but could be wrong. The Bears did not draft Patrick Mahomes. They passed on him as well. So we'll see. We'll see where the Bears end up. I think I could see them trading the first pick, but since they traded Justin for a little of nothing, they got to take a quarterback one. It just depends upon who they like. I'm not really sold on anybody, particularly at the top of the draft. I could see them taking Drake May and letting Caleb Williams go back home to Washington, where he is from. But needless to say, the Bears have screwed this one up again. They did the most Chicago Bears thing that they could do. Uh, Also, the next topic up for discussion is Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach. Will he outlast Deshaun Watson? That is the question. I know they signed Jameis Winston, Mr. Crablegs, as their backup. I don't know if he's going to survive. If Kevin's going to survive this. If it traditionally the Browns axe the coach and keep the player. I don't know how the Browns are going to get out of this. They're married to Watson for 3 years. So in Browns country, they got to figure it out because that guy has a guaranteed contract and they're paying him a bunch of money. But Russell Wilson had a guaranteed contract and Denver decided to part ways with him. So maybe Cleveland does that and completely wrecks their cap. Could it be better? For what they gave up for him, I just don't see it working out in the future for him. And is Jameis the answer in Cleveland? That I do not know. I would not want to hitch my cart to that horse going forward. Jameis will also throw you 30 touchdowns, but also 30 interceptions. Ask the Buccaneers fans about that. I don't know how Cleveland even salvages what they gave up. I think at this point, if you're the Browns, you might want to cut your losses, but you got to find a viable trade option and get some type of value for Deshaun Watson. I just don't see it. I don't think there's anybody that can make that deal or is that desperate. And what you get back is not what you gave up to get him. So that is a total organizational loss. And I'm not shocked that the Browns would do something like that. When they made the trade, he has sat out for so long. He was suspended again, and he very well maybe gets suspended again this year, which is, detrimental to his career. And I think if he gets suspended again, it is curtains for Deshaun Watson at this point. That is what it is. And then I was also perusing around on the internet this afternoon, and I seen Pat McAfee came out and thinks Caleb Williams is the guy. And I want to go back on this just for the simple fact of Pat McAfee played in the NFL. He's also getting paid by ESPN, and ESPN loves to drive narratives. So is Pat McAfee really sold, or is he kind of, somebody talking him into saying, Caleb could be the guy, but also he could not be the guy. So I think that was a strange comment made by McAfee. I want to see if he switches his take going forward. I don't watch McAfee's show. I just see clips of it here and there. Moving on. Kenny Pickett did not want a quarterback competition. From what I had seen on X and some of the local media in Pittsburgh, said that Kenny was on a private jet getting ready to go on vacation with some teammates, and Kenny got the call that he was being traded. Or no, let me back that up, that they had signed Russell Wilson. And I guess Kenny got up, got his bags, and got off the plane, and that was the last time the guys on the plane seen Kenny Pickett. So I think that just goes to show at the guy's character. He didn't want to compete with Russ. Russ had better numbers than what people thought this past year, better under the Hackett regime. it was not conducive to wins. I think Denver was an all-out dumpster fire. Sean Payton's kind of a smug asshole. Didn't really want to play for the guy. And Russ had some quirks when Hackett ran the team. Russ's quarterback trainer had an office, and it just was not a good situation out there in Denver. And then Sean Payton comes in and says, "You're not doing this, this, or this." So we'll see. I don't see why Kenny didn't want to at least try to compete for his job. Um, that just, to me, that goes to show the type of character you have going forward. I'm not assassinating saying that he's a bad guy. I'm just saying it seems like to me he just did not want to compete for the starting job of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now you have got yourself a one-way ticket to Philly where you're virtually never going to see the field. Um, with the way the current NFL landscape is, the amount of backups that played last year, and the amount of movement, um, a quarter of the NFL has moved around as far as starting quarterbacks. If you look at the starters week 1 and you go to week 17 and look at the starters, and then you look at the trades, the amount of movement with quarterbacks in the NFL, it's something that I've seen on the Coach JB show about the NFL being watered down, and the product is just not as good. I think that is evidence of that. And if you look at the last two um, quarterback draft classes, and I'm not talking about CJ Stroud and Will Levis, the two previous classes before this past drafted class, just not good quarterbacks. So Pickett, was a first round pick. It sets the Steelers back, I think, a little bit. I still don't know what Omar Khan told the Chicago Bears to give them Justin Fields for nothing. I would like to have been a fly on that wall. But Pickett is in Philly. Could he get traded if there's an injury or somebody goes down? Yes, I could see him being a guy on the market. Mason Rudolph exited stage left pretty soon after the Steelers, and Omar Khan came out and said we had a vote of confidence in him. I just feel that Omar was doing something. Kevin Colbert was a longtime Steelers GM, and the Steelers never signed big time free agents. As soon as Omar has taken over, that is changed a lot. The Steelers have brought in uh, Patrick Queen, which is a huge get for the defensive side of the ball. They steal him from the Baltimore Ravens. Um, I know the Ravens are not happy about having to replace a guy like Patrick Queen. That is not good for them going forward, I believe. Um, so the Ravens might struggle on defense, but with uh, anything with a John Harbaugh coach team, the Ravens are well coached on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll have to see. They signed Derrick Henry, which I don't know how he's going to fit into their offense, into that triple option zone read um, with Lamar. Um, the Ravens lose Odell Beckham Jr., which for what they paid him, if you look at his production opposed to what they paid him, just was not a good fit. But that goes back to the issues that um, I see with Lamar Jackson as a quarterback as a whole. He cannot throw the ball, and he can throw it bombs over Baghdad because he always has an 8-man box. That's it's easy to do when you have man coverage. Just throw it up and let your guy get it. But as making anticipatory throws and throwing the ball to the hot read, understanding blitzes, things of that nature, I think Lamar is struggling. Um, the the big news that came out this afternoon actually was about the ACC transitioning over to college football. Now, this topic to me is very interesting just for the simple fact of there's two big dogs in the ACC conference. You've got Florida State, you've got Clemson, And I think what they do is the way the conference is going to go. They've both are suing the ACC to get out of their grant and rights deal because they want their TV rights back. I can't say I blame them. I think the Big Ten is going to take Florida State, and I think Clemson's going to go to the SEC just based upon uh, conference fits. Uh, Florida State would be great for the Big Ten because I know you would have you would have all three time zones represented, which the SEC does not because they have no West Coast teams. Um, and with this domino following, I think the Big 12 is slowly but surely behind. Um, out of those schools that you would have in the ACC, I think a school like Virginia is in major trouble. Um, Virginia Tech is in trouble. Um, I got to pull up the rest of the ACC schools, but Duke, North Carolina, NC State, it, it's not it's not a good look. And if I am those other schools, you guys are losing two schools away from being the Pac-12, and we've seen how that ended up. I just I feel that the ACC is in the danger zone. They are in the red. Um, they didn't add anybody really. Um, you've got you've got Louisville in there. You got Louisville, Georgia Tech, uh, North Carolina, Duke, Miami is a major player. You have Boston College, Pitt, Virginia, and Wake Forest. I don't I don't see the Big 12 taking on a lot of these schools. I could see them taking Pitt for the backyard rivalry between them and West Virginia. Pitt would fit in the Big 12. I think North Carolina would want to come to the Big 10. So would Duke. Um, I think Georgia Tech would be a good fit for the Big 10 as well. The Big 12 might try to gobble them up, but it's still a lot of what ifs. Um, I think the Big 10 would like to have that Atlanta market, which would be huge for them. Um, and and you could restore some of the ACCs and the ACC rivalries between Maryland, Duke, and North Carolina. NC State is an interesting school to me. I think if I'm NC State and Louisville, I think you get on board with Clemson and Florida State and try to get out of the ACC. Now, the NC State could be a major player in the Big 12, but I just don't see them wanting to deal with all that travel. They're a little bit of I think money is going to be an issue for some of these schools that are mediocre compared to the Big Ten. Ah, man. What's up, Carter? What's up? We're just talking some conference realignment. Uh, I just, I don't know what would be the best landing spot um, for the NC State Wolfpack. I like Georgia Tech to go into the Big Ten. It is it's tough because where a lot of these schools are located, they're in Big Ten country, and I just I don't think they would jive with the Big 12, and I don't think if you're Miami, you don't want to go to the Big 12. That is just if I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, I want nothing to do with the Big 12. Uh, you got those schools up north. You got Boston College and Syracuse. The last time Syracuse was relevant was probably whenever Donovan McNabb was there and Marvin Harrison. Uh, you just is there program tradition there? Yes, but in the last 20 years they've not been very good. Um, they got Bill O'Brien there. I don't know how that's going to pan out. The guy got married in the church on campus, so um, the one thing that I do know of talking to coaches that have coached at the highest level of college football, that for guys that go back to their alma mater, shout out Tyler Siskey for this one. they don't love you. Um, they don't love you as much as you think they do. And Carter, UK is going to march to the championship. Oh no. Oh no. Not Kentucky basketball. But they don't love you as much as you love them, just by the way a lot of those guys get fired when they go back to their alma mater. Um, and oh, lock of the century. Oh man. Um, I would say Matt Luke is a prime example at Ole Miss. His whole family was Ole Miss, and they ran him out of there, and that's the tough part. I mean, Mike Hart just got fired from Michigan. Running backs coach, probably their best running back in the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years. I believe he's the all-time leading rusher there, I want to say. Um, but anyway, back to conference realignment. We'll look at the Big 12 here, and I mean, 20 years ago, the Big 12 was up and coming. You had Texas, Oklahoma. They're both gone now. They're to the SEC. You got Colorado coming back. Houston could be a major player. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Cougs with Willie Fritz down there. I would not sleep on University of Houston. I think the Big 12 is up for grabs. I like Kansas to win that. And if the ACC falls, I think the Big 10 comes in and swoops up the major players out of the Big 12. I think some schools that are going to get left in the dark are going to be Baylor, Cincinnati, possibly Colorado, because there's nowhere for them to go. Um, Outside of Deion Sanders, that program has been left for dead for the last 15 years. When was the last time? The last time they won a bowl game, I believe, was like in 03 or 04. Um, so I wouldn't want to run the risk if I'm the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten needs to put some other programs on notice, like Northwestern. Even though they were better this year after that whole the Weenie Wash fiasco that had happened up there, the naked quarterback center exchanges. I don't know. The Pat Fitzgerald said he didn't know anything about it. If you are the head coach of a major college program, it is your job to know what's going on in the locker room. That's just my opinion. Um, they got to do something. The Big Ten needs to put some of these schools that are just collecting a paycheck on notice. They're just not going to be free riders. Uh, that's just my opinion. When you have Ohio State, Michigan State, the blue bloods from the program when it was the Big Ten, when you had 11 schools. Um, you got Minnesota, Illinois, Purdue. Those are mediocre schools at best. They gotta do something. They got to do something, because I think the Big Ten is going to maybe ask some teams to leave to make way for more competitive teams. The way this is going, the 14 team playoff is coming, people. And it's going to be set up just like the NFL, and we're going to have two major conferences in college football. A lot of people don't want to admit to that, but that is coming. You have schools out there. Indiana just they got JMU's coach, and he says he's won everywhere he's been, but you ain't been in the Big Ten, and you ain't been to Indiana University and trying to. I've been outside the shoe, never been to a game to the shoe, but going this spring with my man Carter, I've been to an Indiana home football game, and anytime you go to a home IU game and Ohio State's there, you ain't got nothing but Buckeye fans in the stands. Uh, that's that's the tough part of being a smaller school in a big fish pond, because I think I would rather see Ohio State Clemson week to week, or in those matchups, than watching Ohio State play Purdue. because I think you're going to have some of these Power 5 schools that have been collecting a paycheck for a long time in these conferences not really doing much, and I think these the SEC and the Big 10 may go to a relegation model. I hate to say it, but I think that's coming because there's way too much money involved. Because if you whack up the money evenly, that's one of the reasons why the Big 12 fell apart, because Texas and Oklahoma were winning 10, 11 games year in, year out, and you had Iowa State, you know, putting up 3 wins a year, 4 wins a year, and the occasional they may win 6 games. It just is not conducive for the conference in the competitive edge. Um, I think it would be a big culture shock if uh, the Big Ten went to Northwestern and say, "You guys got to win 6 games." But the Big Ten is changing as well. You're bringing in UCLA, USC, uh, Washington, and Oregon. So these the Northwesterns, Indiana, Illinois, and Purdue's better start investing in football, or they could find them on the outsides looking in. That's that's what I that's what I'm feeling, and I think that is the way college football is going. And I've seen a lot of people report on this. Notre Dame has got to figure something out because they got to find a home as well. Uh, whether it's the Big Ten, I don't think Notre Dame going to the ACC will stabilize it. I think that's a loser move, in my opinion. I just don't see what Notre Dame would add to the table, and then you go out there with Oregon State and Washington State. They're going to marry with the Mountain West, but at best, Oregon State just lost their coach, and I can't tell you the last time I watched a Wazoo football game. I hate to say that, but if they were more serious with football in the Pac-12, they wouldn't have tried to do that wonky TV rights deal. The big thing for me with college football is that you got to be in the time zone. You got to be on the East Coast time. If you look at a breakdown of the universities and the major programs, they're either on Central or Eastern time, and that TV time is something that is huge for recruiting and proximity to home for some of the recruits. It's easier to recruit California, but if you're Arizona State, USC, there's 20 schools trying to get one kid, and then you have an Ohio State that comes in and just absolutely can offer you, hey, you want to play on TV every week? Because Ohio State's on CBS at noon Eastern, because the West Coast people get up to watch things that go on our time zone, football especially. If the West Coast was a major player in football, they would have the NFL would not start at 1:00 on Sunday. That's just my point. And turning to Buckeye basketball, they got the win the other night against Cornell. It was a scary win, but I seen something posted today. Colin White just got named Ohio Mr. Basketball, and he took his team to 4 state finals. And the only other person to do that, Andy's committed to Ohio State, the only other person to do that in the state of Ohio was that guy named LeBron James. So I think the Buckeye basketball has got themselves a good one there. And I think Diebler's got the program trending in the right direction. It'd be great if they can really make some noise in the NIT. I think it's chicken shit what Rick Pitino did and a couple of the other coaches did, said, we're not going to play in the NIT. Well, you know what, Rick? Well, don't be at St. John's. How about you don't get fired from Louisville for all the escorts and drugs and things of that sort you did at Louisville, and then getting the girl pregnant, and then you talk your assistant coach into marrying her, but what are you going to do? I guess that's the Louisville way and the Rick Pitino way. So that is something also to look at, but you're also at St. John's. So for the East Coast, that's a big deal, but not very many people in the Big Ten country watching St. John's. Another conference that fell completely apart, the Big East. And I think a lot of those schools from when the Big East fell apart, they never really recovered. But another caveat that we have tonight is we are going to look at the NCAA tournament. And we're going to go through it. I'm going to do a little deep dive on this, tell you who I like, who I don't like. One of the games that catches my eye, just looking at it, FAU Northwestern. I can't believe FAU made the tournament. I like Northwestern in this game. I think they play a better brand of basketball and a little more fundamentally sound. And shout out Tyler Siskey on this. He had talked about it. San Diego State versus UAB is going to be a very interesting matchup that they talked about on Siskey and McCready, and I will have to say I agree with him on that. The UAB coach is really good in tournaments, and San Diego State has not been good on the road. And another matchup is, I guess since Carter's in here listening, we'll talk Kentucky. Can Kentucky make it to the Final Four? They're a huge favorite against Oakland. I don't see Oakland putting up much of a fight. Kentucky just plays a better brand of basketball. They are hot right now, but Oakland's won 4 in a row, and Kentucky dropped a huge one to Texas A&M, which they should have beat that team. They should have beat that team by 20. Oh, yes. Next question. The only team that I could foresee Kentucky getting stopped by, where they'll play probably their toughest game, will be Duke or Houston in the Final Four. Kentucky's got a pretty easy road. They got a fairly easy road going forward, so we'll see. The big upset that I have for the tournament, biggest upset for the tournament, is I like the Long Beach State to beat Arizona, because Arizona has been wildly inconsistent this year. And I think Long Beach State, if they shoot it really well, they're going to be a problem. And it's been a couple times. Oh, Carter. There's been a couple times Arizona has been tough in the tournament that they have not delivered. They are a minus 3,000. Everybody is counting Long Beach State out. And the reason why this matchup is circled for me is because Long Beach State's coach, after winning the conference tournament, was told he was not going to return. Or I believe that was before the conference tournament. So we'll see. In another Cinderella, a lot of people are taking is where did I just had it? Oh, McNeese State. They have LSU's old coach. I don't necessarily hate that matchup against Gonzaga. Gonzaga in the tournament traditionally has fallen apart big time. And another matchup to keep an eye on is Mississippi State, Michigan State, and Alabama College of Charleston. And I almost lean College of Charleston in this matchup just for the simple fact of College of Charleston takes care of the ball, and I think they shoot it a little bit better than Alabama, but Alabama scores a bunch of points, but they also can't stop anybody either. And Baylor, don't count out the Bears, the Baylor Bears. That is another team that I like. I'm not sold on Purdue at all. I think Matt Painter will be Matt Painter in the tournament per usual. He is wildly inconsistent. They had a really bad showing last year. They lost to FDU, Frederick Dougherson, something like that. Just not a good look for Matt Painter and the boys over there in West Lafayette. And another team that I think will struggle will be North Carolina. They got Wagner opening game. They should beat them by 20 plus. Let's look and see. Yeah, or a 24-point favorite. They should win that going away. But Izzo has a pretty good record as a low seed in the tournament. Oh, nice, Carter. This is what I do it for. Carter has got the Caleb Williams on lock. That is good stuff. But Iowa State, another viable option to make it to the Final Four. BYU, the Fighting Mormons against Duquesne. That BYU should win that matchup. They should, but could be tough for them. Texas A&M versus Nebraska is an interesting matchup because Nebraska has been a little inconsistent this year, and Texas A&M is coming off a huge win, an absolute huge win against the Kentucky Wildcats. So we will see how they respond if they are going to ride that momentum into the tournament. They got that huge win against Kentucky. That is what it is. Florida is waiting the winner of one of the play-in games, and we actually got play-in game action going on right now in a tight-knit battle. I believe that is Montana State and Grambling for a 16 seed. Wagner is in, Colorado State is in, and then the late game tonight is a little bit of an interesting matchup. Colorado, Boise State. I almost want to lean Boise State in this matchup, but I think Boise State should cover it. Colorado started out the year hot and has just been wildly inconsistent the rest of the year. And going up back to the bracket, Dayton, Nevada, the Fighting Steve Alfords versus the Dayton Flyers. Don't ever rule out Steve Alford. He, Indiana boy, by the way. He's put some good teams together when he was at New Mexico State, which catapulted him to getting the UCLA job. And the expectation at UCLA was huge for some strange reason. I didn't quite understand that. They have a long tradition of winning at UCLA, and they've put multiple people in that job, and they've just not been able to get it done. I think the last time they won a natty was with Ed O'Bannon back in the mid 90s, I want to say. Auburn and Bruce Pearl, also some people to watch out for. That is that, and we can roll on over to the NIT that's currently going on right now. If I had to pick a winner of the NIT, I'm going to go Ohio State. So I don't think there's any other breaking news. The biggest thing that has came out so far has been Shohei Ohtani fired his interpreter for stealing $4.5 million from him to cover his gambling debts, which is wild to me. That guy is his interpreter, supposed to be with him all the time, and he has stolen money from him. And something else that I had seen was the Dak Prescott ordeal. What's going on down there in Dallas? Back in 2017, he is getting investigated for uh, an alleged assault that had happened outside of a gentleman's club in the back of an SUV. I just think it's very, very ironic that this story drops uh, when he's got a contract coming up for negotiation. Do I think the Cowboys leaked the story? Does it help him because Dak was looking at, close to 60 million a year? I find that an interesting caveat to look at going forward. And then we'll get some NFL draft in here, and then round up the show for this evening. Going forward, it's got the Bears still projected as Caleb Williams. I just feel that is a tough pill to swallow if that does not work out. And if Justin Fields goes on to do great things in Pittsburgh, it is going to be looking rough for the Bears. They got Jalen Daniels going to the Commanders, and I'm just looking at the player rankings. I cannot believe that they've got J.J. McCarthy ahead of Bo Nix. I would so totally take Bo Nix over J.J. McCarthy. But I just the way they got these guys ranked is Caleb Williams 1, Jalen Daniels 2, May 3. Those are probably going to be your top 3 picks unless something huge happens. Unless somebody that's a complete dark horse that comes off the ropes out of bounds and jumps in the mix. But they just don't have what I'm looking for. Yes, Brock Bowers. For some reason, Brock Bowers' draft stock keeps on falling, and I do not understand that. I don't know if he didn't test well or something, but Brock Bowers' draft stock keeps falling. It's falling like a lead balloon. And then a Buckeye note here: Cade Stover's allegedly the 3rd tight end off the board. That would be good for Cade. Shout out the Buckeyes. Let's see if I can get a whole first round breakdown here. We'll go to CBS and see what they have. Yeah, I get it. It's March Madness. I just do not. I'm actively campaigning Marv not to Arizona, Marv anywhere but Arizona to play with the mental cripple that is Kyler Murray, and he's also about 3 inches shorter than me. So, CBS is projecting a trade here with the Chargers that the Minnesota Vikings may move up into the first round. They just did some pick swapping with Houston. Draft day trade is what CBS is saying. J.J. McCarthy is who they're taking, which that would also make Chris Drew the happiest man in the world, and Zach Smith would also lose $200, which you can't have it all. Can't have it all. I I want to say Rome Odunze to the Jets would be an interesting caveat, and rounding out the um, last of the last here. If I'm reading this correctly, CBS has Brock Bowers out of the first round because I have not seen him yet. Oh, there he is. Yes, pick 11 to the Chargers. That they would swap with Minnesota. I think that would be a huge get for the Chargers and Hairball. He is the booger picking man himself. At least he would get that right. But outside of that, there hasn't been too much grumblings about the draft. Everything seems to look the same. The experts, they think they know, but sometimes they really don't know. It's got the Steelers projecting to take a offensive lineman out of taking Mims out of Georgia, which I don't necessarily hate that because they have not been able to run the ball successfully. Arthur Smith has got to figure it out, and they got to figure out who is going to be the quarterback. So that is that. And spring practice is going on with Ohio State. And last but not least, this is just a random topic. Who will be the starting quarterback at Ohio State? I am going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that Will Howard will be the starting quarterback at Ohio State, and that will be without question. I believe it'll be Will Howard. So we shall see what's going on going forward, but Will Howard off gonna start. So, and tomorrow we're gonna have another show. Carter's gonna be on with me tomorrow, and we'll have some new topics for you guys. But I appreciate everybody tuning in, and if you could do me one favor, hit the like and subscribe button. That helps the show grow and it helps people see it. So, with that being said, that is the end of the Andre Duke Show. We will be live tomorrow, probably around 7. I'll have my man Carter with me. But everybody, thanks for tuning in.